Hello and welcome to episode 70 of Out of State DMing. I'm your host, lluksblackheart. And here with me today are my co hosts, LadyCelt and Bacon. Uh, today, we are,
Hello.
today we are going to finish talking about ninth level spells. There is a few left. And if we have time, we're going to be talking about future episodes. So, starting us off is the spell Energy Drain. This is probably one of the bigger, more dangerous spells because when you hit a subject with it, they lose 2 die 4. Well, they gain 2 die 4 negative levels. For those playing at home, that means their total level drops somewhere between 2 to 8, which incurs a -1 to all attack rolls, saving throws, and skill check rolls per level loss, or in this case, negative level gained, -5 hit points per negative level gained, and it technically can drop certain people low enough to where they can't cast certain spells because they're no longer considered high enough to cast those spells. So you can turn your opponent, who's flinging high level spells at you, into someone who can't cast those spells because they're no longer technically eligible to cast those spells anymore. Not to mention the fact that once your total levels. I see you. Watch your language, or I'll poke you in the eye. You fucker.
I live my life.
Yeah, I see that comment.
I can and will. I can and will perform the yeet, skeet, and boogie.
That's what she said. No, but I'm saying if your total number of negative levels gained is equal to or exceeds your actual level, you die. So if you manage to get hold of a rod of greater maximize or greater in power, you can turn that spell into a death sentence. If it's maximized, it's straight 8 points gone. If it's empowered, you take the number you rolled and increase it by 50%. So at minimum 3 to maximum 12. And you can either one shot low to mid level entities or have to use it more than once to take care of bigger enemies. But it's still an extremely potent spell because not decreasing hit points, their abilities to pass saves, and decreasing their chance of hitting you is always great. Does not being hit and having an opponent with less hit points is always good. The next spell is Soulbind. What it does is it traps newly dead souls to prevent resurrection. So it's a literally, I don't want you coming back, bind your soul. Yeah, now no one can resurrect you. They have to get around the soul bind in order to actually bring you back, and if they don't know what's stopping you from being resurrected, well then they're kind of stuck. So that's a great way to keep people from be recurring enemies. This next one I can definitely see people loving. Wail of the Banshee. It kills one creature per caster level. And since you have to be at least level like 18 in order to cast this spell, right there. Hi, Saint. Everyone say hi to Saint.
I'm saying.
Hi.
So that being said, being able to insta-kill up to 18 creatures is always a grand. Does it say, I cast a spell, all of these people, they're going to most likely die. So it's a very great AoE death spell. And like I said, I can definitely see certain individuals, when they get access to this spell, using that spell.
AoE death spell sounds like a band.
AoE death spell. Yeah, that probably is a band. Want to make a D&D band? Will be the AoE death spell. Uh, no, but the next spell is Etherealness, which permits you to travel to the ethereal plane with companions. When we get to the spell itself to go over what the spell actually does and its limitations, we'll be able to figure out why it's separate from the plane shift spell. But I'm pretty sure the reason why it's a ninth level planar travel version spell is probably because it does really great things. But this is also one of the spells that, in my 20 plus years of playing D&D, I've never seen anyone use, so I've never had to actually look this spell up, because everyone's like, well, just plane shift or use the gate spell or just not go to ethereal plane.
I would probably play that one.
That, and it's also a ninth level spell, and the number of campaigns I've ran and played in where people have access to ninth level spells is limited comparative to everything else. So a mixture of those few games where people have had access to those spells, they just never used it, or they never got high enough level to actually have the option of using it. But I'm pretty sure it's probably a useful spell, since it's also a ninth level spell. The next spell is probably something a lot of people fall in love with, even though they don't read fine print, is Shape Change. Transforms you into any creature and changes forms once per round. So you pretty much, for a short time period, are a shape changer that can turn into, hypothetically, any creature. When we get to the S spells, we'll be able to figure out what it wants the limitations to be. But it's literally, I want to be a bear, now I'm a bear. Now I want to be a bass, now I'm a bass. I want to be an eagle, now I'm an eagle.
I'm just kidding.
So it can be a fun spell to turn into things. And if memory serves, you can also go, I want to be an owlbear. Now you're an owlbear. Or, let's check if it can turn me into a purple worm. But once we get to S's, we'll be able to determine the actual limitations of it, which still makes it a decent spell nonetheless. The next spell is a spell that always seems to piss people off, no matter who's using it. Time Stop. You act freely for a d4 plus 1 rounds. The amount of people who think that everyone else stops, so therefore you're stopping everyone else. It's like, no, you technically get 2 to 5 rounds of, you get to do limited things within those rounds before you pretty much hop back up into reality. So even though technically time is stopping, it's short-lived, and it's only giving you free action, a few free turns of doing shenanigans. Hi, Nova. And because like a lot of people think like, oh, I cast it, that one person there is now paused for God knows how long. It's like, no, you technically get a few free rounds to do whatever shenanigans you want to do. So it always pisses people off because they don't read the fine print. Excuse me. But people can still get heaps of fun out of this spell, especially if you use a Rod of Maximize. The very last 9th level spell is a spell that everyone wants, even if they say they don't want it, they actually do want it. Mainly because they want to use and abuse this spell to any which way they possibly can. And that is Wish. The Wish spell does have limitations that a lot of people either openly don't pay attention to or don't care about. Because they, as far as they're considered, they can literally wish for anything they want because it's a wish, even though Wish has built-in limitations. And even with those limitations, Wish is still a very potent spell. And as long as you don't technically breach any of the limitations, you can still technically get away with lots of shenanigans. Mainly because one of the things it's capable of doing is pretty much mimicking any other spell, but turning it into a 9th level version of it. So if you decide that I want to make sure that these people don't pass a fireball spell, you can wish for a fireball, and the fireball will be cast as a 9th level version instead of a 3rd level version, so the base DC is a 19 instead of a 13. Even though I wouldn't waste it on a attack spell. But as long as your DM greenlights it, and it technically doesn't breach the limitations of the spell itself, you can still technically get away with murder. Or just about any.
Yeah, you say.
Yeah.
Let's me get away with murder.
One of the examples of people saying they don't really mind not having it, but then getting upset that they don't have access to it. And this is always never not going to be brought up because it's freaking hilarious. Was a party member buying the last couple Rings of 3 Wishes and then burning all of them so that way he can have a Tarask as an animal companion.
Tarask and a Pokeball. He turned it into a Pokemon. Let's be real.
Yeah, and he burnt so many wishes to do that because it passed so many of those saving throws. And then the party going, how'd you do that? How'd you manage to get that? Oh, I bought the Rings of 3 Wishes. Instant rage from a group of people because everyone agreed that they're going to go buy them together and then spin the wishes as equally as possible so everyone gets a wish. Not for one person to buy the last of the wishes and then burn all 9 of them so he can have a fucking Pokemon.
I know some players that would definitely pull some shenanigans like that.
Yeah, no, it was great. There was a lot of very salty people after that.
Oh, extremely salty.
I would be salty for a bit, but then I would be like, "Well played."
Yeah, there's first
they were salty for the wrong. See, they were salty for the wrong reason though. They weren't salty that he did it. They were salty that they didn't think of it first. Basically,
yes. They were mainly like, I should have done that. Why didn't I do that?
And it was like, well, I was gonna wish for like grand power schemes, and it's like, yeah, no, you can't do that. You could try, but you can't. Yeah. See, at that point in that campaign, I couldn't even be mad about it because I already had like 6 wishes from Rings of 3 Wishes dropping, from magical bullshit.
So you also had the deck of many things drop you.
Right. Wishes. Well, that's where one of those 3 wishes came from. Um, my first time playing with the deck of many things because one of our players who didn't know what it was and was dumb forced us to play with it, and we were trapped in the room and couldn't leave until we drew cards. So
Yeah, because the entire
Oh,
room
God.
was no one gets to leave. If
meanwhile,
no one draws a card.
me and the player that he's currently talking about were sitting in the corner going, "Oh, please don't touch the deck. Please don't touch the deck. Please don't touch the deck." And they kept asking why. And when we went to respond, I'm not going to say who, but a certain DM muted us so we couldn't be heard when we were talking about it.
I
And
didn't mute you.
yeah, huh?
I verbally stopped you because one of them made a declaration and I needed them to confirm it.
She was dumb and you knew it. You took advantage of a special ed kid.
As a special ed kid, I'm allowed to.
You know what? Fuck your logic.
No. My son was also a special ed kid, and he said that he is allowed to tell anybody they belong on the short bus because he is an expert on it.
Yeah, that's fine. But Jacob blatantly took advantage of the special ed kid.
I enjoyed that way too much. They
And
weren't listening.
then proceeded, because after we were allowed to talk about it, we said, hey, nobody else draw these cards. They're going to kill us because the deck of many things does not have all good cards. It is a 50-50 split between good and bad. And then the DM, our lovely DM here, Lux, decides to go, oh, you're trapped in the room until everybody draws from the deck or until all cards are drawn. So then me and the player who knew what it was split the remainder of the deck 50-50. And I died.
But you had wishes to help get you out of it.
Yes, I know. But my point was not there. That is not my point. My point is you still took advantage of a special ed kid. Yes, as a special ed kid, I understand that, but you still took you played her for a fool, and she played right into your hand.
I gleefully grinned as I let her walk off a cliff.
Pretty much.
Ooh,
God, was she
bacon
mad after
getting
that.
Out logically talk. Thank you, Nova.
Oh, yeah, it's great. And then the same player who had just learned what a deck of many things was later in the campaign found another deck of many things, put herself in a corner and drew all the cards herself, and then died. Twice. Because of greed. Because she's like, oh, you guys got when you guys split all the remainder of the cards, you guys got some really cool shit, and I don't feel like I got anything cool except for a fight to the death where I died. Because she died during her first deck of many things, so she thought the second time would be better. So she did it again and died twice.
No. At that point, if you can't learn after the first two experiences, that's on you. I mean, unless you have profound problems or you're like,
her mentality for it was, because this was after the Rings of Three Wishes were bought, because originally the goal was since we found another deck, we were gonna split it just to get rid of it, so nobody else can get hold of it. So it was going to be split amongst the party again. But this time, me and the person who split the deck 50-50 on the remaining cards were not going to participate just because of the fact that we ended up splitting 14 cards between us. We each drew 7, and that's how I died and he got his ass beat. So when she encountered it a second time, as quote-unquote payback for buying all the Rings of Three Wishes, she greeted the entire deck And if anybody here knows Lux, they know Lux does not like greed. So he made her suffer a lot.
She lost so
Yes,
And then
much.
she spent she spent the next 3 sessions sulking.
I have known Lux for a very, very long time, and I would not want to run afoul of him as my DM.
And I am in the same boat. And I also know that greed gets you nowhere.
Yeah.
Because all greed is doing is going to turn you into his primary target for that Tarask is going for you first. It's not the inevitability of am I going to fight a Tarask? It's when I fight it. I don't want to be the first to die.
Now, I will admit that the party's resurrection of that aquatic Tarask was going to bite the party in the ass.
Okay, we didn't mean to do that, all right? We kind of forgot a very key portion of a Tarask's lore. And I will admit that that is on me because I made a boo-boo. Albeit I was not the one who took it. I was not the one who stopped it either because, again, I made a boo-boo and forgot about the key part of Tarask lore. But on the plus side, I really enjoyed my time with my big fishy. That my wife in the campaign was so gracious enough to have eat us. Or no, that wasn't that was before I was married.
Yes, it was.
That was Pixie's God who made it eat us because I decided to throw my junk on the window of the submarine because me and her did not like each other. So our player Pixie was worshiping a god of the sea, and this bitch and me hated each other because she did not like the type of character I was, because vampire. And me and her got into a few pissing contests. Well, the one we were in, we were traveling underwater, and obviously vampire cannot swim, so found a primitive submarine style of submarine to travel. She was outside the window doing some shit. So I proceeded to take my junk out, rub it on the window, and be like, here, this is all for you. And next thing I knew, there was a very large aquatic fish dragon that decided to eat me.
Dragon shark.
And the party. Yeah, there we go, the dragon shark. And it proceeded to eat us. Do I regret it? Absolutely not. Because fuck that bitch. She deserved to see my balls.
For a little more context,
Oh my god!
that character's god
that's amazing.
Was a Daedric seagoing god that pretty much went, this fucker was warned.
Yeah.
Hey,
and then later on
go eat them.
And then later on in the campaign, I ended up with a quote unquote mother of sea monsters who became my wife and had better control over that dragon shark than the goddess did, and I proceeded to say fuck you as I flipped her off and married her.
Well, the seagoing Daedric Prince of Disemboweling versus the Daedric Sea Prince of Sea Monsters.
Yeah.
Both powerful and dangerous, but one goes, that's a sea monster. It's within my domain. Middle finger. Technically, Tarask counts as under her domain as well. This is an aquatic version.
Yeah. That kind of pissed off the Pokemon master because I told him, I'm like, yeah, I can control that to kill you if it ever goes out of control.
He's like, no, it's not. No, it's not.
And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, yeah, no, that's my wife's domain, bud.
That counts as a sea monster.
Needless to say,
she's a Daedric Prince of Sea Monsters.
Yeah. So, that campaign went awry really quickly. Like, I didn't even have time to use my wife's powers much for that one before it ended.
Yeah, but you can't really blame you for that.
No. If you ask any of the people that were mad about it, it was my fault.
You
Saving the
weren't
party
there
was a problem.
You weren't there to say no. Let's not be stupid. Not do that. You failed to stop them from being stupid. Like spending over 22 days on the moon, fully knowing that a minute on the moon is an hour on Earth.
Yep. And then again,
Yes, Lady Kill, do some
it,
quick math.
it
22 days on the moon, knowing that a minute there's an hour here. How much time do you think passed on Earth while they were gallivanting on the moon?
Okay, hold on. What are we calculating now?
so 22 days on the moon, but the time difference is 1 minute on the moon is 1 hour on Earth. How much time was spent on the moon? I wasn't there. I was dead.
Okay.
But what is the length of time that was spent on the moon?
So, okay.
Basically, one day on Earth or 1 day on the moon was like what, like 4 days on Earth?
Oh, cool. Can I have some people we could send there? That'd be so amazing. Tell them it's just going to be for a long weekend, and I can get rid of their ass for the better part of a month.
Actually,
that'd be awesome.
Better part of like a year.
Earth, an hour on the moon is 2.5.
I'm still waiting for the downside.
A day on the moon is 60 days on Earth. A week on the moon is 420 days on Earth. A month on the moon is 1,680 days. The party spent 22 days.
They spent 3 years on the moon. And it was only 22 days, but the alive party members were arguing with the DM and the dead party member and 2 of the other party members about math, and when they were proven wrong and told that they spent 3 years up there, they were very as the kids would call it, butthurt. And then proceeded to throw a temper tantrum. This is the same one who greeted a deck of many things, by the way. Threw a temper tantrum because, and I quote, "You didn't tell me how long it was." After we proceeded to berate her for telling her that, hey, we spent 45 minutes doing the math on this for you, told you, explained it in detail, and you still did it.
Yeah, because that wasn't the first time they were on the moon. The first time on the moon, they weren't necessarily there for that long, but an hour still ended up passing on Earth, and then went, wait, that's weird. We didn't spend that long there. Why is it there? It's like, oh, time difference. Time's faster here on Earth than it is on the moon. So when they went to go to the moon the second time, I brought it up. It's like, remember, you guys can't spend that much time there in comparison because of the time difference. I was ignored, and they went, we're doing it anyways. And they didn't take their magical flying ship with them, which was a mistake because that would have expedited a lot of their time travel, therefore not spending that much time on the moon. So they relied on, I can turn into a chimera and fly. Which helped, but didn't help. So they spent over 22 days up there.
And then the first trip up there, at the time, I was still alive and very much a vampire. They decided to encounter lunar dragons, and given only one party member had the durability to play with these said lunar dragons because they were babies, I was promptly evicted from the ship to go play with baby lunar dragons because vampiric regeneration was the only way to survive playing with baby lunar dragons who are playing slap tag.
Yeah. Yes, that's right, nerd. Nyx is not a vampire. Yes, and I do recall you did say, can we take the ship? But you have to remember, you were outvoted. I was ignored, and they still wanted to go do it.
Well, technically, I was dead. at the time when they didn't take the ship. So I didn't have a say in it.
Yeah. But for those who don't know what slap tag is, slap tag is pretty much normal tag, but instead of tagging them, you just run up and you slap as hard as you can. Now, if you're not familiar with lunar dragons, a lunar dragon is an extremely, no matter what age category, an extremely big dragon. For reference, a typical wormling of them is an 18-foot long asshole. So the party ran into a pack of them that were trying to have fun. Yes, you are always the Uber. And they wanted to play sap tag with people from the party. And, well, the person who had the ability to fly and could actually not get brutally murdered during slap tag was Nyx, who had a DR and a healing factor to help him survive a handful of dice powered by that's a high strength for something that's not even 5.
Yeah, that would be great. Here's the problem with it though. That DR and regeneration did not mean shit after a while because I was still getting my ass whooped. And they were just playing.
Yeah, that was them playing.
To be totally honest, that feels like my youngest grandson. He is not even, he's going to be 18 months old here in like a week and a half. And he's the size of a 2.5-year-old.
Jesus.
That's a
Stop
big
feeding that
boy.
kid.
He is, he's incredibly strong and incredibly smart. And I am eternally grateful that I am the Mima and I can hypnotize him pretty much. Because I don't think I could deal with him otherwise.
Yeah. But yet, needless to say, Bacon here was the main reason why a lot of the party managed to actually survive certain stupid shenanigans. Because, well, he either talked sense into them or got them out of it. Nerd helped where he could, but when you have multiple...
Satan was only there half the time.
Yeah. And Satan was only there half the time, so you can't actually blame him. Even though sometimes he was there, he went, let's do this stupid thing. And everyone's like, no, it's not. He's like, okay, we won't. But then another person goes, we're doing this stupid thing. Party. No, it's not. We're doing it, and it happens, and it's like, God damn it.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's only so much you could save people from, and there was one time where I had just ripely turned into a vampire, and we encountered the what was it? Hill trolls.
No. A group of fog giants was
right. Fog giants. So at that point in time, that was early in the campaign. I still had my very favorite item in that campaign, which was the adamantium tower. Basically, with my DR, my AC being boosted because vampirism and regeneration, I just stood in the door and kept tanking hits. Needless to say, my party, who was mostly all ranged people at that time, could not land a single fucking hit. So I was going punch for punch with fucking trolls. And eventually, after I think it was 8 rounds, I finally got my ass beat enough to where they had to drag my carcass into the tower because, in Jacob's words, he hit you so hard you're now unconscious.
Well, you're also skipping several vital things that made you actually have to go.
That's amazing.
Out there was another party member stepped out the door to fight a group of these fog giants, thinking they can go toe to toe.
That's right. Yeah, because I had
using their reach was like, this is going to be fun as they clobber the moron.
Yeah, actually, I did forget about that part because that was where I had to, because I told them don't open the door
And they did
We'll
anyways.
just mage them because they can't force the door open. And at that point, I was sitting on the battlements on top of the tower,
Enjoying it.
and said person went ahead, opened the door, and got knocked the fuck out immediately. So I
Yeah.
jumped down off the battlements, drugged them inside, put them behind me, and I just stood there,
Well, no, you stepped on
tanking.
in front of them to start taking hits so they wouldn't die, while another party member grabbed and dragged them in.
Ah, that's right. Yeah, because that's right. Because I
Then,
made Pixie drag him in while I was
yeah, yeah.
standing there.
Then after you got knocked, slapped so hard you went unconscious, uh, they pulled you in, and then the party was able to get smart and actually utilize the tower to their advantage to actually defeat these fog giants. What about keyblades or gunblades in D&D?
No,
D&D doesn't really have gunblades.
5e does. 5e does. If you're an artificer, you can make them.
Uh,
But
yeah,
3.5, which is the more common one that is played on right now, especially in Jacob's, or sorry, Lux's campaigns, he does not do 5e stuff, which means that the artificer class does not currently exist.
um, is there a 5e, well, 5e, a 3.5 artificer? Yes, but it's not as good as people think it is.
It is not the 5e artificer that can make anything and everything that they imagine.
Yeah. Uh, is there gunblades in 3.5? Yes, there is. Are they extremely rare and limited to certain circumstances? Yes. Are they actually good? No. The only thing closest to a gunblade that I found that actually is good is a blunderbuss axe, probably
Sounds
called
fun.
the flintlock axe, because it's pretty much a large flintlock pistol with a on the front part with a worked in axe, and it's a one-handed battle axe. So you can either swing it as an axe or properly load it and shoot it as a large pistol. And it's the only one that I actually like because it's an actually good and actually makes logical sense. All the other gun blades are pretty stupid because the blade damage sucks. It's normally D4s or die 6s, despite whatever it is. And the gun aspect, it's equally as weak. There's like, here's a pretty much a saber revolver. Now, you'd think a revolver would do decent damage, correct? It doesn't. No matter if you're
Uh,
shooting them or stabbing them or slashing them, it's a die 6. Not 2 die 6.
Ew.
Not boom. There's like, if you incorporate like a flintlock, it's a die 10. That's a simple flintlock pistol. It pretty effective. So you're thinking a revolver would be in the same line. Especially if you look at like D20 modern stuff where revolvers to like 2 die 8 or 2 die 6, depending on what version you have. Thank you for that, Astro Chunk. I am not dead yet, and neither is Bacon. But it's like, so you think like that this gun blade would the gun chart would actually do decent damage? No, it's a die 6. It's the same as using the blade action. Uh, it does count as a dual weapon, which means you can stab someone and then shoot them, or shoot them and then stab them, which is the only good part about it. But it's still not very effective because you can easily go, I'm just going to get a flintlock and a longsword. So I'm doing a die 8 with this, and then I can shoot them for a die 10. Better damage. And the gun blades have horrendous reload times. And reload times. This is not as simple as like, okay, move action to reload it, like normal revolvers, or a full round action to reload the flintlock. This flintlocks, it wants you to take time on this because if you mess up slightly, it doesn't work. The gun is. Don't ask me why they did this. The quickest gun blades to reload is a full round action, and that's pretty much a dagger gun. And it hurts my brain. And a lot of the stuff I looked up, it's another reason why I don't like them, is because they don't count as legit range weapons, despite the fact they are legit range weapons, lightning reload doesn't work with them. Do you know how stupid that is?
Pretty useless.
The main thing that makes ranged weapons like crossbows and stuff easier to work with because it's easier to reload them doesn't want to work with these gun blades here. And the only gun blades I found that actually ignore that while having somewhat decent gun blades is the Final Fantasy plugin. Now, their gun blades still suck, but they ignore that little rule there. Because that's where you get like a lot of the gun blades that do die 4 damage. It's like, But there is gun blades in D&D. And I'm getting messages. Let me check my messages.
Was asking about
I just saw it. That I'm gonna have to remind him again that that's for testing dates and times, not general chat.
I didn't see what channel it was in. I just responded to it.
Yeah, I'll correct it later. But no, D&D has some does have cool, fun stuff in it, but sometimes it's stupid. But getting somewhat back to the point of magic, since we did finish the 9th level spells, what we're going to be doing starting next week, because we got on a big tangent there for a moment, is we're going to be going over each spell one at a time. Pretty much discussing school. We don't really have to go over what level you have to be able to cast it, but we might bring it up. Components, casting times, ranges, area of effect or effect duration, saving throws, spell resistance, and then getting into what the actual spell does. And just a quick reminder, there's a lot of people out there that don't actually pay attention to a lot of this stuff because they read a particular thing and assume that it works exactly the way it says there.
Remember, kids, thinking outside the box in D&D is your best friend.
Yeah, thinking outside the box is good. Also, reading the spell is also good. Because the number of times, as both a player and a DM, I've looked at a person as like, I cast this spell and I'm going to do this with it. And I'm like, that's not how that spell works. Yes, it is, because it says in this little block here, this here. So, did you actually read the spell? No. So you just read that there. Yeah. Go read the spell. Because it tells you what the spell actually does and how the spell actually works. Don't assume it's going to last 5 hours for a spell that lasts a number of rounds. Like Acid Fog. There's been several counts in my 20 plus years of playing. People thought it lasted hours. It doesn't. It lasts one round per caster level. They thought it affected huge areas. No, it's a 20 radius spread. They thought it did so much damage it instantly killed things. No, it does 2d6 acid damage each round if you're in it. They also skip out on what the arcane material components are. Like, if you don't have a pinch of dried powdered peas combined with powdered animal hoof, you can't cast the spell. So if you don't actually read the spell, you don't know what the spell actually may or may not need, or how the spell may or may not actually work. Like, for instance, it's a verbal semantic material / divine focus spell, which means if you're in a cone of silence, you can't cast the spell because it's a verbal component. You can't cast spells if you're silenced. Semantic, that's hand gestures. If your hands are missing, or even one hand is missing, or one hand is incapacitated, or you're bound, you can't do the semantic gestures you need. Therefore, you can't cast the spell. So there's little things that can easily stop you from casting a spell because you can't perform the components, or you don't have access to the components. And there's a lot of spells that unfortunately have that. That's one of the reasons why the feat Eschew Materials is one of my favorite feats. So as long as the material does not exceed 1 gold piece, you don't need it. But you have to verify the cost. Like a wish spell, you need 20,000 gold pieces worth of crushed diamond dust to cast a spell. Assume Materials doesn't let you cast that spell because it doesn't ignore 20,000 gold pieces worth of diamond dust. The amount of people who ignore such expensive things because they have Assume Materials is rancid within D&D. The amount of players who have threatened to leave because I went, you don't have what you need to cast that spell. But I have Assume Materials. Can't cast it. But next week we'll be getting into some of the ins and outs of each individual spell and how that spell technically functions properly. And if you're smart enough, you'll be able to see why those spells are actually good despite their level, or why some spells aren't technically worth taking because they're niche spells. And kind of at that note, other than going on another off-tangent thing, we don't really have that many things left to cover in this particular episode, because we know what we're doing next episode. We finished what we're supposed to do for this episode. So, like I said, unless my co-hosts here want to fill the last 12 minutes or so with off-topic things, we are kind of done with today's episode.
Okay, I'm going to bow out. I've been muted because I keep coughing and sneezing.
Well, you're having
but I will see you guys next week.
So we will see you next week.
Okay.
Senor Bacon, is there any off-topic things you want to use as time filler, or are you okay with us ending about 10 minutes early? Are you muted? I think I'm talking to myself right now. Gotta love people. as I press more buttons that aren't supposed to be there. Yeah, picking anything to add. Yeah, Astro Chunk, you yell at him. Well, since I appear to have people here, is there any questions my chat wishes to ask at the moment? Now, remember, it has to be D&D related. Preferably spell related. But any questions? Does Nova have any questions? Does Astro Chunk have any questions? What about you, nerd? Any questions, Nerd Oasis?
I'm sorry. I just got back.
I wasn't aware you were gone.
I stepped away while you were mid-sentence.
No, Astro Chunk, you cannot summon me. I am not summonable. I cannot be summoned. Nah,
I think that would make a very interesting 9th level spell. Summon DM.
go old school to the animated show. This short old man in a red robe appears, going, "Yes." Big beard. Obviously balding to the age. I'm gonna summon the Dungeon Master to fight the Dungeon Master. That doesn't really work. He just goes, "There can't be two of me, so therefore I ought to win." Haha. No, but unless Bacon wants to add anything, or anyone wants to ask an actual quasi-serious D&D related question, we can appropriately end the episode. So I will give the audience a few moments to think about a question. Because I know Nova is going to be bugging me here in a moment, so she's probably not going to ask anything. Astro's being funny. Saint's being quiet. If I am, it's probably going to be late. In reference to that particular question. Because I have a few other things I have to do before I officially decide to play other games. Okay. But since there's currently no other D&D related questions, and my all-impressive co-hosts of Bacondom doesn't really want to add anything, we will be ending today's episode. So,
Remember, kids, stay happy.
Yes. Stay happy. Do magic. Thank you for watching, and remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week for more magical shenanigans.